Rajdeep, not in the context of the politics, but what did you make of the Prime Minister, talking about Nari Ka Apman, freedom from misogyny? Because it wasn't just a one-off comment. He spent a few minutes talking about that, Rajdeep.
Absolutely, Shiv. And again, this is a continuum. If you look at the Prime Minister's speech in 2014, where he had made the distinction about the need to try and to ensure that the boys in the house are educated about the need to respect the woman in society. The Prime Minister has focused on two demographics consistently over the last 8 years, women and youth. These have been his twin targets of his, you can call his politics, but certainly of his reach out. There has been a consistent reach out to women, and there has been a consistent reach out to the youth.
Yes.
And I think when he speaks of Nari Shakti and Yuva Shakti, he reflects that. And I think importantly, as Raj Chengappa mentioned, I think there is a shift from a focus on a rights-based approach to a duties-based approach. You have certain duties, fundamental duties in society. You cannot have fundamental rights without having fundamental duties. And that's where I think the reach out to women, to the young matter.
And once again, he's appealing to the people to be with him in that, in a kind of, he calls it a revolution almost.
You know, Shiv, this is Mr. Modi's politics.
Yeah.
Mr. Modi, when he goes to the ramparts of Red Fort, tries to use the opportunity to create the impression that he's not a leader sitting on a high pedestal out of the public glare. He is someone who's one of the people. That's his style. That's how he's been very effective as a communicator, that we are all in this together.
Yeah.
You know, that's what makes, in my view, Mr. Modi distinct from particularly his predecessor Manmohan Singh, who would use this occasion to only tell us what the government had done and government programs and the achievements. In the past, at times, Mr. Modi, like in 2016-17, Rohan Gupta did mention, Mr. Modi made various promises. You know, we'll double farmers' income.
Yes.
Promises that today the opposition could challenge him on. This time he chose to stay away from that, instead focused on the big picture. And in the big picture, Nari Shakti, Yuva Shakti, fundamental duties that you have to build a better future. You know, Jai Kisan, Jai Jawan,
yes.
Jai Vigyan, and he add Jai Anusudan and speaks
Yes.
of digitization. So it's a much more futuristic speech than looking into the past and asking people to sort of provide a report card. This is not today Mr. Modi providing a report card of what his government has achieved, but more looking at the big picture of what can be achieved in the next 25 years. And Nari Shakti is a very important element of pushing India ahead in the Prime Minister's worldview.
Absolutely. And I'll go to the politicians in just a moment, because we know that, Nari Ka Apman, misogyny has been a flashpoint, in the ongoing crossfire between political parties. The BJP and the Congress frequently accuse each other of their leaders making misogynistic comments. So I'll go to the politicians just a moment, by way of dwelling a little bit on a very important part of what the Prime Minister said. But going to Raj Chengappa once again, sir, what did you make of that Nari Shakti element? The Prime Minister, I counted, he spent a good 3-4 minutes talking about just that one aspect.
Shiv, I agree with Rajdeep and the others that spoke that, and to you as well, that this was one of the biggest outcome of his speeches, because the kind of time he devoted, the kind of detail that he devoted, very, very important in a country as we head to 100 years, that gender equality, and he used that word, should happen. And there was also a huge element of aspiration in his speech. If you looked at what as Rajdeep was saying, looking at the future, the innovation focus that he talked about, how, and he mentioned things like 5G, semiconductors, the things that we can do in India. He was chalking out a vision, not just for the women of India, for the youth of India, as to what India at 100 should be at. And so in doing that, he eschewed the sort of, the common sort of way to do Independence Day speeches, which is to talk about what he's done and then look at the next 2-3 years. So there was this soaring speech that he gave. I agree it was one of his best speeches. He's always really good to listen to. I mean, his extempore speeches, the way he presents it, the command with which he does, really enthuses the audience here, and all of us felt that sort of soaring feeling that he has. As he looks at the future, these are some of the things he's chalked out. Let us end our dependence on the rest of the world. Let us be self-sufficient, not just in grains, but a whole range of areas. Very important that as we look ahead into it. Second, let's get into technology in a big way. When he talked of innovation, I think that was a very critical thing, because as we know, unless we are technologically developed, unless we get into the knowledge economy, India cannot reach that goal that he talked about, which is being a developed country. So all the right emphasis that was there, and of course, let us also look at, let's not just look at it in terms of politics. Corruption has been something that he has been hammering right from the top. That's been one of his achievements. The real problem, I think, of corruption is at the lower levels. He's been able to curb at the highest levels, the corruption that's there, so you don't see the scams. But if you talk across to people, there's still a lot of corruption that needs to be tackled. Now, as well as if you're looking at nepotism, not just looking at politics,
yes,
but across, to end those things. Now, these are good things that we need to do, but it's also playing politics in the sense he knows, and he kept saying, look, I'm not referring to a particular party or person, this is a larger thing that I'm exhorting you for.
Very important.
Very interesting,
yeah, yes.
In his 2014 speech, first speech, just to reflect on Nari Shakti, he had said, I want to ask every parent that you have a daughter of 10 or 12 years age. You are always on the alert. Every now and then you keep on asking, where are you going? When will you come back? Parents ask their daughters hundreds of questions, but have any parents ever dared to ask their son as to where they are going? Why is he going out? He also has parents. As parents, have we asked our son as to what he is doing and where he is going? If every parent decides to impose as many restrictions on the son as we have imposed on our daughters, try to do this with your sons, try to ask such questions of them. So I think, Mr. Modi has positioned himself as a champion in a way of reaching out to women, empowering them.
Yes.
He even spoke about, the sportswomen who are doing outstandingly well. And he has reflected on the youth and the challenges they have for the next 25 years. So today was a much more futuristic speech than a speech looking into the past. Of course, with those two political punches, corruption and nepotism.